Perfect. Welcome, everybody. Like Ann said, I am Corrie, one of the care services coordinators with the ALS Association. I have been with the association for about a year, so I think I have met everybody. And for those of you that are just jumping on, you will, there is going to be Terry Hallback is joining us from Duluth, and she is one of our new clinic liaisons, and she did help me pull some of this information together too, because we both are OTs and have spent a lot of our career lecturing and teaching people about energy conservation. So I just wanted to go over some strategies to monitor your energy levels today, give you a couple of exercises to think about, and then we'll have some discussion if you guys are open to sharing your thoughts. So I am going to start sharing now. And hang on just a second. Is this sharing, Ann?
It is not.
It is not. Hang on. Here we go.
Is your share screen?
We're going to do this one and we're going to share, and then
there you go.
Go here. There. Is it in presentation view, or do you guys see everything?
We see your notes too.
Oh, shoot. All right.
There we go.
All right. That's what I was trying to do before.
And you did it this time.
I swapped my screens or something, you know, technology. Okay, so energy conservation, like I said, we're just hoping to go over some strategies today to help you just maintain your energy levels so that you can get through the day doing what you want to do. Presented by us. We have no affiliation for this presentation. This is just something that we have pulled together through the ALS Association. And like I said, Terry is standing by if we have any further questions or comments. So the first thing I want you guys to think about is, what is energy conservation? When you think about energy conservation, what is the first thing that pops to your mind? I think a lot of us will think, you know, just like energy resources, fuel and electricity and all those things that we are always taught to conserve. So if you look at some of the definitions of energy conservation, Wikipedia is going to say that energy conservation is the effort made to reduce the consumption of energy by using less of an energy service. So again, like we said, fuel, electricity. This can be achieved either by using energy more efficiently or by reducing the amount of service used. Energy conservation is part of a concept of eco-sufficiency. So that's where we usually kind of go when we think of energy conservation. And the Oxford Dictionary says that it is the prevention of wasteful use of energy, especially in order to ensure its continuing availability. So anybody willing to share where their mind went when it came to energy conservation? Did you think about yourself? Did you think about eco-sufficiency?
And I will pause so that you don't get recorded.
Yeah. So yes, it's an effort made to reduce the consumption of energy, using energy more efficiently, reducing the amount of the service that's used.
We're not seeing the.
Oh, it's not popping up?
No.
Ah, maybe it's like have to all go at once.
No, I'm getting it.
Did you?
Oh, are you?
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right. So reducing the amount of service used, prevention of wasteful use of energy, and ensuring its continuing availability. So those are all things to think about when we're thinking about energy conservation. That can be used as far as your own energy. So what does that mean for you? So I want you to just kind of look at these pictures as you're going throughout the day. Are you finding that you have enough energy to get through your day, or are you running out of fuel? Do you feel like somebody who's needing to take a nap frequently? Do you feel like you're always hauling around a lot of luggage? You know, just feeling kind of weighed down, like you can't get that feeling of just being able to get through the day. We have a great resource on the ALS Association website, Navigating ALS. I'm not going to read this whole quote, but I think one of the biggest things, the first couple of lines really stood out to me. Although the course of ALS is unpredictable, fatigue is one outcome that is predictable. So that is a pretty common symptom that people will complain about, that they just feel this sense of fatigue, physical fatigue, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue. So fatigue is just, it's one outcome that we can really say most people with ALS are going to experience. But what does this mean for your caregiver too? So even knowing the person with the ALS probably has all those emotional, mental, physical fatigue, the caregiver is starting to experience a lot of different roles and things that will really start to kind of wear on them too. So we really need to think of our caregivers too when we're talking about energy conservation. Again, the ALS Association talking about, in navigating ALS, that burnout can be just defined as exhaustion of physical or emotional strength or motivation, usually as a result of prolonged stress. And that's in relation to the caregivers. So why are we exhausted? What really causes that? We know that for the person with ALS, it can be the muscle and the neurological changes. But also, when we're looking at our society, a lot of us we have this need for perfectionism. We're supposed to be a Superman, Superwoman, super person, be able to do everything, do it right, do it in a timely fashion, meet that deadline. I can be a mom, I can be a wife, I can be a full-time employee, I can be a volunteer. There's just all these things going on. We really never want to admit that we can't do it all. We're supposed to be perfect, right? Never ending task is there's all those chores that always need to be done. Even when it comes to our basic needs, the groceries, I always tell my husband, it's like my least favorite chore because you have the meal planning, you have the grocery list, you go to the grocery store, you pack the groceries, you come home, you have to unload them, you eat them, it all goes on and on and on. It's never ending. Work overload. So you are taking on new things that you have never done. So new roles, impossible tasks. A lot of people with ALS feel they have a change. They can't do the things that they've always been able to do, so they're having to look at different ways to do those things. Multiple roles, like I said, this can relate to everybody, but also probably more specifically the caregiver. Now, maybe it was always my husband's job to mow the lawn, but now I have to mow the lawn. So you're taking on different roles. Self-sacrifice. We have a hard time saying no. I think that's a pretty common thing in our society. We have a hard time telling people, no, I want to be able to do everything that people ask of me. And then those unspoken feelings, that's where that emotional exhaustion comes in, unable to tell people that I don't feel comfortable or I'm too tired to do that. So what do we do about it? So Terry and I have done a lot of education. I'm sure many of you have talked to your PTs and OTs. I know we were in a meeting this morning with Essentia Clinic up in Duluth, and I think both the PT and the OT mentioned, well, we talked to them a lot about energy conservation. So the planning ahead, I always said, these are the 4 principles of energy conservation are the 4 Ps. This is what I always tell people. If you remember anything, remember the 4 Ps. So that will involve planning, pacing, prioritizing, and positioning. So planning, I think, Andre, you kind of mentioned this, is planning allows us to organize our time and our activities to reduce fatigue. So some suggestions, and this isn't all inclusive, but would be to make a calendar and space your activities out. Schedule rest breaks. Somebody mentioned napping. So that's a great way to kind of recharge your battery or fill your tank up. I want you guys to think about one heavy activity per day. So That would be going to the doctor. That would be vacuuming. That could be taking a shower for some people. That could be their heavy activity. Task breakdown. How do I break things down to make them easier? So think about making a meal. What can I chop ahead of time and have in the fridge so that I can rest before I get up and put everything in the oven or on the stove? And then to-do lists are always good. And we'll talk a little bit more about that coming forward. Pacing yourself. The other thing with the 4 Ps that I always like to mention to people is that they all kind of tie in together. So if you rushing can cause people to have increased physical and mental fatigue. So we want to allow plenty of time to complete the task and avoid that physical and mental fatigue. So by doing that, that takes a lot of planning ahead. Okay, so for example, if I know I'm going to be going to the doctor in the morning, I may choose to shower the night before. I may choose to lay my clothes out. I'm going to set my alarm clock so that I have plenty of time. All seems like common sense, but it's really hard for people to use that sometimes. And then spacing those activities out, giving yourself plenty of time, knowing that if you're going to the doctor, even knowing it's at 8 in the morning, probably shouldn't plan on having anybody come over, maybe till later that day or that afternoon to visit. Be honest with yourself and others that things take longer. And I think a lot of people are pretty good about that. I would say, when I'm talking to individuals, a lot of times they will say, well, just give me some time. It takes a little bit longer than it used to. And that's okay. I think it's good to just let people know that things are going to take a little bit longer and just kind of protecting yourself from that. Using an alarm clock to start or stop an activity. If you know you're getting tired, a lot of people get going on an activity and they just will not stop. They'll push themselves till they are ready to drop. So it is good timing to just set an alarm clock to a little gentle reminder that it's okay to stop that activity and come back to it. Prioritize. What do I really need to get done? So we need to just go down to the basics, the basic human needs. What do we need to do every day, right? We need to eat. We need to have some, we need to take care of ourselves as far as just hygiene, toileting. What are some other things that you can think of that just basic human needs? So those are your priority. Those are going to be your number one things. Some people, over the years, I have people say, well, I have to take a shower every day. And that is really important to some people, but that's what they need to plan into their schedule. Other people I tell, you're not running a marathon. Does it really matter if you take a shower every other day or maybe even 2-3 times a week, as long as you're doing a good sponge bath in between? Probably not. To-do lists, again, just kind of keeps you on track. What do I need to do? Helps you prioritize what's most important, what needs to get done first. And on that list, can you delegate? What do I have to do? What do I feel like is important to me? And what am I okay asking somebody else to help me with or giving up?
I think that's a hard one.
Yep. And who cares? You know what? If you can look at something and say, who cares if my floor hasn't been vacuumed twice this week and there's a couple of dust bunnies running around? That's okay. That's okay for me. That might not be okay for somebody else. So you really have to prioritize your own list.
I think the word I think about there is to create a lot of routines.
Routines are good. That's another really, really good one, Andre. Yep. I'm surprised I didn't put that in because that's a very frequent term in my vocabulary.
You can always add it.
That's right. I will. Positioning. So thinking about positioning yourself and your surroundings. So many of you have probably gone through a wheelchair evaluation where you've been fitted for a chair, and that chair is specific to keep you in the right position. Because if we can position somebody correctly, it helps them conserve energy. Okay. if I'm in a poor position, I'm going to be more tired. My muscles are trying to constantly fight that position, and I'm just going to get very, very tired. Keep your essentials close by. Have your little hub next to you with your phone, your drink, a snack, anything that you find yourself constantly running and getting should probably be nice and close to you. Your TV remote, whatever that will be. And then use your planning strategies. So as you're sitting there and you're watching TV and you think, I'm getting kind of hungry, but I know I have to go to the kitchen in about 20 minutes to take my medications. How about in 20 minutes when you go to the kitchen to take your medications, you grab a snack while you're at it, rather than making 2 trips to the kitchen, okay? This is my favorite, and it's actually kind of a sore topic in our marriage, is we live in a 2-story home. So I will keep things on my stairs, and rather than going up the stairs multiple times, I will grab those things as I go up. So I always have like a pile on the stairs going up and a pile going down so that I can grab those things and go up and down. Reconsidering your living situation. Is there a way, if you are doing stairs or having multiple trips back and forth somewhere, is there a way to set up your living environment on the main floor? Is there having a little refrigerator, you know, in your bedroom, whatever it is, to just kind of avoid those trips up and down? And then using a backpack or a bag of some sort to haul those things so that you're not holding on to those too, because that's gonna, the more you're carrying, the more energy it's gonna take. So I am not gonna ask you guys to do this right now, but this was always a project that I shared with people that I worked with in home care, is a delegation list. And what I want you to do is you can either do a delegation list by yourself, or you can sit down with your loved one and your caregiver and make one together. What are you guys comfortable asking for help with? So what I did on here was just some examples of things that I would feel comfortable asking for help with. And that would be what you guys all heard, how I love grocery shopping. So dropping off groceries at my house. I would be okay if anybody, you know, made me a freezer meal, and so that I could keep that in the freezer and heat it up in the microwave. My husband probably would not be comfortable giving up the lawn care, but I would be. Same with shoveling. Walking the dog, if I couldn't do it, I could give it up, but I do enjoy that. And just little things, you know, so have a list of these things. And what I always said is, so many people will reach out and say, what can I help you with? What do you need? And it's hard for us to ask for help. Okay. So I think it's nice to have this list. And then if people do ask for help, you can show them your list and say, hey, this is the things that, you know, my husband and I designed. If you're willing to take a couple of these and do these, fantastic. And then they also get to pick. Maybe they don't have time to walk the dog, but they could maybe drop some groceries off at your house. Okay, so then they feel a little bit more in control too.
Can I share something I learned from someone?
Yes, absolutely.
At one point, because I thought this was such a good idea, she said, when somebody would say, oh, what can I do to help? And if she didn't know, she would say, I can't think of anything right now, but can I call you when I do? And she said, you immediately know, because people will either say like, okay. And you know they don't want you to call, or they'll be like, please, I really hope you'll call. But I thought that was a really good way to.
That is a great tip. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. The delegation list can fall into our ALS Care Connection too. For those of you that aren't familiar, the ALS Care Connection is an online tool that helps organize a community of people who want to help. So you can get a coordinator that can set this up, and we have step-by-step instructions on how to do this online. Or you can reach out to info@ALSMN and one of us will help you. but basically what this is it's an online calendar where you can have different chores, different things that you want done. And say, for example, I had this and Terry was my coordinator. She would just make sure that she would send this out to a group. So anybody who wanted to join the group, she could add. And then you can sign up for different activities. And I'll tell you a funny story about this in just a sec. So this is kind of an example of lots of helping hands through the ALS Association or the Care Connection. Jenna, our volunteer coordinator, developed this for me so that I could kind of see what it looked like because I hadn't actually been involved in one. And so you can see over on the left side, it says ALS volunteers test. And underneath you can see open tests. So pick up a target order that is on there a couple of times. So when I went in here, I joined the group and I clicked on that I was going to pick up a target order this last Saturday on October 30th. So since I signed up for that, it's no longer on there. Saturday night, my husband and I were heading out to go somewhere and we stopped at Walgreens because he needed something. And as I'm sitting there at Walgreens, I see this text pop up. You need to pick this order up at Target for Jenna. And I had a panic attack. That I had signed up for this test. So luckily it was just a test, but it worked and it was really cool because it reminded me that I needed to do it. So this is another theory. So we talked about the 4 principles or the 4 Ps. This is another theory called the spoon theory by Christine, I'm going to say it wrong, Miserandino. Do you know that name, Terry? Did I say that right? I don't know. So this was just a theory that she developed. This is an individual who has lupus, but she was trying to just explain to people what fatigue felt like. And when you're so fatigued, how do you really make those choices about what to do day to day and really managing your energy levels. So what she talks about is most people in the healthy population will start their day with an unlimited amount of possibility and they have the energy to do whatever they want. So you don't really think about it. But when you're sick, she was at a restaurant and so she just grabbed whatever she could. And so she grabbed spoons. And so she had this handful of spoons and she said, you have to start thinking about each spoon representing your energy levels, and each activity that you do costs you a different amount of spoons. So she will say for the lupus population, and I think it's a pretty good number to kind of gauge, would be 12 spoons. And you have to kind of gauge that. So I want you to kind of think about what you did today, how many spoons you used, and I'm going to give you a guide to kind of go by. But if you only had 12 spoons today, how would you use them? So this is kind of a guide. So you can see the 1 spoon category. Just getting out of bed cost you 1 spoon. So if you kind of look at it, okay, so today I have gotten out of bed, I got dressed, I took my pills, and I have watched TV. So there's 4 of my spoons. Oh, I forgot I took a shower today, dialed my hair. I've already way surpassed my spoons for the day. So think about that. That 12 spoons is really not a lot. So think about that for a minute. I want you to kind of just do a quick number in your head, and we can talk about it in a little bit if you're comfortable. But think about how many spoons you've used today. Some people think spoons seem silly. So I don't like counting spoons. I don't want to think about spoons. That just seems silly. So what about just rating your activities on a scale? Thinking about everything on a scale of 1 to 3. 1 requires the least amount of energy, 2 requires some, 3 would be the most, okay? But I also want you guys to recognize that these numbers will be different for everybody. Carol, these numbers will be way different for me than they are for you right now. These numbers may be different for you now than they would have been a month ago, you know? So that can really change. So there's a lot of assessing that we need to do too, to kind of look at what's going on in our lives at the time and how these different activities are going to affect our energy levels.
Say, Carrie, a question. What are you suggesting occurs physiologically when you run out of spoons?
What do? You have to think of ways to recharge your battery, Andre. Yeah. Somebody mentioned naps. Other thing, I always tell people, not everybody's a napper, right? Some people just need to do things, maybe reading recharges your battery, maybe going outside and just sitting in the sunlight recharges your battery. Like, so everybody's battery can charge in different ways. Okay.
My question goes more to kind of balancing fatigue from the disease with fatigue from deconditioning.
Yeah.
So are you doing physiological harm?
Is there physiological harm?
By using up your spoons, or are you creating more capacity for spoons by doing what you can?
You are actually physiological harm. I don't know that I could say you're doing physiological harm. You're going to have physical fatigue, and you are going to limit your ability to do your necessary activities of daily living. Okay. So really trying to plan things out, schedule those rest periods, whatever it is that you need to recharge during the day. Because yes, it could cause severe physical fatigue to the point that you're not able to do what you need to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. So next steps, I want you guys to think about is, I just want you to process this information and think about how you're going to budget your energy. Like I said, so some of the things that I want you to start with, the first one is to create your to-do list and rate those activities. So you can either give that a spoon or you can give it the rating of 1 to 3. Make a list of all the activities that you have to do. And then I want you to prioritize those. What do I need to do? What do I feel comfortable having other people do? What do I need to do today? What can be done later? Okay. Listing all the appointments or outings that you have scheduled. So obviously getting to the doctor is pretty important, right? We need to know where we're at. We need to get our medications. We need to get their recommendations on ways to just improve our functional ability. And then list all your daily activities. What do you do every day? So getting up, getting dressed, taking a shower, eating, medicine, going to the bathroom. And then looking at the necessarily weekly activities. You know, I could think of a lot of things I do weekly, you know, laundry, vacuuming, scrubbing the floors, those types of things.
Well, I also think about as we head into holiday season and, you know, are you having people over for Thanksgiving? Are you going to see a light show? Like, that's just added stuff right now this time of year.
Right. So really kind of taking a look again at, you're going to have your regular activities. And then, yeah, you could maybe every month, every week even, add in those other activities and figure out where you're going to put them. Okay. So for example, Thanksgiving weekend, say the doctor wants to see you on Wednesday, and that's the only time you can get in. If you don't go see him on Wednesday, you're going to be waiting a few more months, right? So easier said than done sometimes, but maybe it's easier to ask a family member to host so that your energy is focused on going to the doctor and all of that other stuff is taken care of, and you can just show up and just be with the family, okay? Versus worrying about having your house cleaned, having the meal made, all those things. So you really have to kind of get creative and thinking about what are you comfortable giving up? What aren't you? I cannot tell you how many people insist on scrubbing their floor on their hands and knees well past the time that is safe to do, but that's what they need to do. Monthly activities, I could not think of monthly activity, things that I just do once a month. If I had it my way, it'd be grocery shopping, but we've already talked about that. So, and then fun. Terry is a big promoter of fun. She said she does not want anybody to forget that they need to do those fun things, especially around the holidays, like Ann talked about. So whether that would be going out with your dog, going out with your family, attending a sporting event, going to watch your grandkids play a sport, reading, going to the holiday shows. So thinking about those things too, and really making sure that those are in your to-do list. Okay, so because we need that. That sometimes is going to help recharge us a little bit. So I want you guys to try to create your calendar, and you're going to schedule things in the following order. So these are things that you should be thinking about: is your appointments, your necessary daily activities. Then I want you to put your fun activities in there. So you guys might want to start thinking about November. What are your holiday plans? What are your plans for Thanksgiving? What's going on around that weekend? Do you have family coming into town? Are they going to want to go shopping? Are they going to want to go look at the lights, like Ann said? So really trying to start planning for those things. Then your weekly activities, monthly activities, and start rating those and figuring out what you can delegate. What are you able to give up to somebody else? Ask for help. Again, I really want you guys, I do feel like the Care Connections calendar is probably not utilized as much as it should be. I think it's a great tool, and it definitely allows people to see what you're comfortable asking for help with, and allows them to sign up when they are willing and able to do that. Okay. And like I said, a lot of your OTs and PTs out there are very educated when it comes to energy conservation strategies. So talk to your clinic therapist. They would be happy to give you some tools, some resources, further education. A lot of them have some calendars in their toolbooks that they could send you home with. And there are also a lot of resources online. So I just want to open it up for questions and discussion if any.